Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong with Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights On Demand. It was so great chatting with Scott Anderson, founding frontman of Finger 11, as we celebrated their brand new song, Adrenaline, and as we looked ahead to what's on the horizon. This aired on Friday, August 2nd. Enjoy. Tonight's special guest has been fronting Finger 11 since the beginning, back in the 90s. And I say this personally, but the early 2000s for me, man, Finger 11's The Grayest of Blue Skies and their self-titled album were two records that I just absolutely wore out. And you fast forward to tonight, we are celebrating brand new music from them with the track Adrenaline that just so happens to be pointing us toward a new album too. Scott Anderson, frontman of Finger 11, thank you so much for hanging tonight, man.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just straight out of the gate, man, how's it feel to have this new song, Adrenaline, wrapped up, ready for the world to hear?
Well, you know, Finger 11 isn't exactly, we don't do much. We don't expedite our music, that's for sure. It takes a while. So to actually say, yes, we have new music and it's out, it's quite the accomplishment for us. But to be doing it over again and to have, to even have the opportunity is just such a blessing. You know, I've been reminded that we've been a band for, you know, a minute and it feels the same for us. And to have music that's releasing and that we're still excited about it just makes us feel like we're teenagers again. It's great.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. Well, yeah. So, you know, that's a very nice way to say, you know, you guys don't expedite your music or anything like that, which I got to say isn't the worst thing. I mean, for a fan, like, yeah, you want more and more music, but, you know, if it's quality over quantity, I think that's always a good thing.
Well, I think no album is truly finished. You just run out of time. And so we are kind of producing the music ourselves, and we're not sort of beholden to the studio schedule. And that's a blessing and a curse. So, but now there is momentum and there's new music coming out. So we as quicker than we know how, we need to finish the record. And that's going to be, we'll use that pressure creatively. I mean, we always do. We try to.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it's out there, right? This new song, Adrenaline, is pointing to a new album that's going to, you know, come out in 2025. And, you know, once it's out in 25, that's a decade since your last full-length album. So it's pretty, I think fans are ready.
Yeah. That's great. I hope the fans respond well. And a decade. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll be shorter next time.
So like this in-between time, I mean, it sounds like you're not finished with the album, but is it like exciting? Is it kind of anxiety? Like what are you feeling in this moment?
I'm mostly excited because we get to have creative conversations about what songs are going to make the record. You know, there's a hard drive full of ideas. Some of them are really good. Some of them need more work than others. And then, okay, well, what shape can the record take? And it's exciting. Okay, so there's a bunch of there's some mellow stuff. There's some, I think, you know, Adrenaline is probably just a name check that I think it's maybe harder than people are expecting. And we had the discussion with the label, like what the first single might be, Adrenaline amongst other songs, but Adrenaline kept coming up, and the band was more than happy with that. But yeah, it's got a bit of an edge, but it's not. It doesn't have the angst that early 2000s Finger 11 had. But my goal was to try to harness some energy without any negativity attached to it. Right? Can't hold on to that. That's, you know, you can't get to where I think it would be disingenuous to be, you know, angsty now, and I'm simply not. You know, I'm a happier person. But you know, good hard music, if you can figure out how to deliver it without that, is a good thing. So, what was the original question? I think I just skipped and I dodged all over the place.
Listen, that's great, man. So let me ask you this: what has changed over the last couple of decades that has led you to be happier? That's not always the case, right? Sometimes a couple of decades, a global pandemic, whatever, might drive someone into that angst.
Truly. Well, my pandemic was spent, I had a little baby boy, and we sort of planned it before the pandemic. And then but they just sort of, thank you. So it was a very, that time was like a very silver lining.
Yep.
You know,
listen, I had a baby boy. And at the time I was living in New York City, the city shut down. And so, I you know, it sounds like you were probably in a similar boat where the pandemic you spent raising a raising a kid.
Right. So it was a wonderful distraction, but I didn't think
Yeah.
we'd be able to like, okay, everything is so uncertain. I don't know. Am I going to see the stage again? Like, is anything, that your brain goes to those terrible places. Yeah, I came out of the pandemic with a different point of view, certainly because, I have a little guy and all the cliche stuff when it happens to you, it's wonderful, right? They do change absolutely everything. But I think, I've been lucky enough to write songs and express things that I don't know, maybe they roll around in your brain for a few days, a few weeks, or a second. But if you can document it, you can kind of sometimes work through those. I think that's songwriting sometimes, So I'm lucky in that respect. And I feel like, okay, I just don't, if something's bothering me and I can express it in a creative way, I'll still do that. But the only I try to let the music inform me of where to go, which is, I know that sounds it sounds how it sounds, but it's true. And then I try to really have a blank canvas, but the only mission statement is like, look, don't just try not to be negative. I've done that. I've done that a lot. So that's the only mission statement. And there's going to be points where I can't help myself, and that's going to have to be okay. We'll see.
So is this like, as far as the life of Finger Eleven and the life of the albums of Finger Eleven, is this the first time that you've kind of felt this way? As far as like really making that your mission statement?
I think gradually, this isn't the first time. But I think it's some of the most successful, like heavy music.
Yeah.
So we've been able to execute a little better. The band is really happy creatively. Like Steve, our new drummer, who's been with us for 10 years, still the new guy.
Yep. That's
but
right.
he brings a lot of producing chops and a lot more like of a modern. He's sort of dragging us into the 21st century, and so. We're working. There's a really nice new spark to the creativity of the band. So that's helping. Like, we're happy people, and that's gonna show up in the music.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, listen, you mentioned Steve being the new guy. Been there for 10 years, but he's the new guy. Do you think about that? I mean, like the longevity of Finger 11 of the band members itself. I mean, it's all the original guys save for Steve, and he's been there, 10 years. It's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah, it is. I don't think anybody wants to hear, my friends don't want to hear me complain about my job or like the sacrifices that you have to make to be in a band with your friends. But there is stuff, like there was that initial conviction when we were young, like, yeah, of course we're going to be in a band. Of course we're going to do it forever. But the idea to just keep doing it, through thick and thin, it just lands on that cliche stuff. Like, yeah, we're still in it for the music. There's still a magic element there. Yeah. So as long as, we want to put out music to get to do it again, Yeah. So it is nice, but it's hard to stay together, like there's everything, we've all got families, and there's financial stuff, to try to keep things afloat and work through the rough patches. To us, it's still all worth it. Like, we don't even talk about it. It's like, of course we're going to still be together. Like, we have the chance to, of course we will.
That's amazing, man. I love hearing that. And like, as a fan, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear from the band,
I think so. There's we're on a very, very special tour right now. We're on the Creed Summer of '99 tour.
Yeah.
And if you walk around, you'll just see people that want to be there and people that are happy. And yeah. You always assume that's the case at a rock show. I mean, maybe as a younger person, that's what I assumed, but it's not. Like, sometimes it's, touring can wear on you, and it can be tough, and sometimes it's hard to be away from home. But like, it's early days, but when the vibe is right and people want to be doing it, it's much easier. It's a much easier road.
For sure, man. No, that makes total sense. And I I'm happy you brought up the tour. And, as we talk about the longevity of your band and also like just the history, like Finger 11 released the official debut, of Finger 11 in '97. Creed released their official debut in 97, the longevity of that band, their bandmates and everything. Like, it's a very similar trajectory. And I just love that you guys are on the road together for a pretty significant amount of time, man, on this tour.
It is. We were really, really happy to be asked. And, it's great. The audience response has been really good. Everybody's getting here nice and early. Hope I didn't curse it for tonight, but it's been really, really good, man. Just a fun, big rock tour. I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than this for rock and roll. It's awesome.
That's right, man. Scott Anderson, thank you so much for hanging. We are celebrating this new song from Finger 11, Adrenaline, and it's interesting that you say, it's heavy, right? Musically, it's heavy, but it's not this angsty stuff of the early 2000s. And for me, like that, I love that early 2000s stuff. But there's something about Adrenaline, and maybe it's the guitars, maybe it is that kind of heaviness that still drew me back to that early days. So I love the fact that it could have that kind of connection to earlier music and yet be drastically different as far as like the attitude of it or the perspective of it and where you're at as a human being writing those songs.
Thank you. And yeah, there is a bit of a tightrope there, right? Like there wasn't an active effort to be like, okay, let's try to capture that sound. But I think there's, the guys take their riffs really seriously. You know what I mean? And it's that sort of jam room idea where it's like, ooh, okay, yeah, that riff sounds really good. Okay, what can we do? Oh, yeah, let's bring that out, And so when everybody gets excited about an idea, it's, that has sort of always stayed the same. So to marry that hard music to a more positive message was, we sometimes, I think in that one we got it right. So it feels good.
Awesome, man. Well, we're loving the new song already. It just came out today. Adrenaline, pointing toward a new album from Finger 11 sometime in 2025. Cannot wait to hear everything you're cooking up. Scott Anderson, thank you so much for hanging. You are on tour right now with Creed, and you can get details. We've got the tour dates at loudwire.com. You can stay up to date with everything going on in Finger 11's world at finger11.com as well. But Scott, man, hopefully, as this album continues to take shape, as more music comes out, you are welcome back anytime. Hopefully we can hang again soon.
Thank you so much.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.